Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We are live on multiple different channels talking to the wonderful, the awesome Jean-Pierre De Villiers. Now, if you don't know JP, I've known him since around about 2016. He is a man who is probably at the peak of achieving more mentally, physically, and financially, which is what we're going to be talking about today. JP is a transformational speaker, high performance coach, mental health advocate, plant-based athlete, ultra endurance runner, Ironman distance triathlete, and just an out and out awesome human who's been on a fantastic journey as far as I've seen. JP, welcome to the podcast.
Gary, so good to be here, man. I know it took us a few months to make this happen, but yeah, very grateful to be here. Let's crack on. Let's inspire. Dude. I love that you're about mind, body, and finances. I'm about the mind, body, and spirit. Unless you get the spirit right, you ain't going to keep the finances anyway. So we're so similar.
Yeah. So that's going to be a big topic for today, how we can inspire people to take more action and be more proactive. And the reason why I wanted to bring you on, JP, was the fact that I first found you in 2016, and having heard your story from, growing up in South Africa with really hard beginnings, then moving into martial arts and actually getting into the point where you became supreme at Muay Thai, I think it was, wasn't it? And Thai martial arts, to then going from a place where you couldn't speak on stage to then speaking to hundreds of thousands of people and being alongside some of the biggest names in public speaking, and then building your business. You've literally been through the mind, the body, and also, the business side of things on the back end. And then having faced what you faced a couple of years ago and just bounced back. You were near death 2 years ago. And I just think you're going to inspire so many people today. And I'm just massively grateful for you coming to share a bit of time for the next 45 minutes to an hour with everybody here.
Well, thank you so much for having me, man. And yeah, absolutely. I've been on one crazy journey and I have a lot to share.
Yeah. So break us down, kind of what would be your stage one, your step one in that journey that you can share with the audience today?
So I'm not going to start with my whole life story because of a lack of time, but it's available online for anyone that doesn't know it. But I'll start at my personal development journey and my journey to discover myself and become the best version of me. I was 23 years old. I was going in the wrong direction. I'd moved to the UK, and coming to the UK, or going to the UK, should I say, at 20 on my own, and having got to where I was at 23, I just had this very clear moment of awareness that I had no one else to blame, and that decision by decision, I was getting my life wrong. And of course, if we keep doing the same thing over and over again, we're going to keep getting the same result. And I just knew, man, I've got to change. I had no idea of me being a coach or a speaker. I just wanted to get life right. To be honest, I just wanted to get life better. So I decided, hey, if I can decision by decision get my life wrong, why don't I go on a journey to decision, figure out how I can get my life right? And 23 to 25, that's what I did. I guess you can say now, looking back, that I was my first client and I just did it for me. And I radically turned my life around. And I went from, I think of life like this. It's like level to level to level to level to level. I must have jumped about 5, 6, 7 levels in my consciousness, in my emotions, in my physical wellness. And at 25, I just realized, man, I know enough to be able to help other people. Just like you're all about inspiration. My intention behind helping others was just to inspire. I knew I had the tools to inspire life and possibility and transformation into others. So I just went with what I knew. Back then, even in my 20s, I would always say that always do the best with what you have. And the only thing I knew growing up in Cape Town, South Africa, was sports. So I just got into fitness coaching. And that was my current vehicle at that time for helping to inspire people, or inspire potential and possibility into them. So I started with fitness because we don't know what we don't know. We only know what we know. And it's the only thing I freaking knew was fitness, other than what I was doing 3 years prior to that. And that wasn't going to help me because it involved girls, drugs, and partying and DJing. So I got into fitness, and that's where it started. Physical transformation. Help people to reshape their bodies, help people to reshape their lives. But as you know very well, Gary, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners know, that actually transformation doesn't start in the body. It starts in psychology. So very quickly after 3 years, I realized, man, I'm wasting my time. If we only have one life and I want to make as much impact as possible, I've got to get out of the basement and into the boardroom. And I've got to help people up here in the boardroom of their mind. So I got into life coaching. And that was the journey then, from the physical mastery to the mental mastery. And I created a very amazing career. As you said, I've spoken in many countries, thousands of people. I mean, I've pretty much spoken with, all the top personal development and business development speakers that are out there, except like share the stage with Tony, And at about 32 years old, I was like, I've mastered the body, still got six-pack abs. I've done professional boxing, Thai boxing. I've done a lot of amazing things. I've got a really resilient mind. Why do I still sometimes feel not great? And that's because I didn't understand in my 20s the importance of spiritual fitness. And that goes back to what I was saying to you before. I think it might have been before we went live, or maybe just as we went live, about spiritual fitness and financial fitness being together. If we're not healed on the inside, you can go to all the clubhouse events, you can read all the books, you can go to all the seminars and courses, but you'll keep finding a way to sabotage yourself because you haven't worked on your inner healing, your spirit, your soul, etc. So at 32, 33 years old, I started going on a spiritual journey. And that's when I moved from giving myself permission to not only be a student in physical mastery, but also to teach it, then to mental mastery, a student, and then to be a teacher. And then in my 30s, I started teaching spiritual fitness. So that's the journey, man. And I'm still on the journey. I haven't figured out life. I tried to make it very clear on social media that I know a lot of shit, but I don't know everything. And yeah, man, I'm just loving being on the journey.
Yeah, and it's so clear from like watching from this outside and sitting on the sidelines and seeing it. You can see that as well. And I've only known you since 2016 and come across you since that point in time. But you can see the journey that you're going on. You can see how much you enjoy life. But also, the thing that I love that you said there as well is the intention behind what you're doing. The intention to inspire and actually the vehicle that gives you that. And it's like, I've been in mortgages since 2003, mortgages and finance, helping people to buy property. I don't really like property. I much prefer business. I don't really like finance or mortgages. Who really likes and wants a mortgage? But that's the vehicle to get me the feeling. And that's the thing that makes it possible to do that every single day. And it's that thing that I think so many people, as one little tip, miss in their life. The vehicle that actually gets them the feelings that they want. People hate their job, but they miss the fact of the vehicle that could potentially be in front of them.
Absolutely. I'm sure you know Ikigai, a Japanese practice for discovering your purpose. Most people know it. If you don't know it, start learning it now and practice it. And every year revisit it. And this beautiful exercise about finding your purpose, the result of it is called your Ikigai. And your Ikigai is actually a verb. It's not a thing. It's not an achievement. It's you in action. So yours could be to free people up. It could be to inspire people. It could be, it could be to nurture people, to enrich people, etc. And mine for me has always been to inspire. And if you can find that in a job that seems to be mundane or, doesn't seem to be on your purpose, but you can find your Ikigai in that thing, it's going to change that whole experience. And it comes down to what I usually say, which is sometimes it's not the thing that you have to look at. It's the thing about the thing. It's the how you do the what. And that can be a game changer for someone listening. Oh my God, actually, I thought this wasn't living my purpose. I thought this wasn't good enough. Everyone on Clubhouse is doing this. But if you can find your purpose in the thing that you're doing, it'll give you a greater why, motivation, and inspiration to play full out at that game that you're currently playing.
Love that, JP, without a shadow of a doubt. And I think the key thing that you mentioned with regard to those 3 stages that you've been through is that fact that you worked on yourself first, the mind, the body, or the body, and then the mind in that order, in your sense. What are some of your key lessons to inspire the audience from point of view of the things that have really changed? Like you said, you had a big shift from 23 to 25. Then you had another big shift. What were some of the things that have gone on for you to really change from the inside?
So I'm going to answer that in a simple way, and then I'm going to break it down. And we've already kind of discussed this, that the key to changing or transforming anything in your life is the mindset. And I call it mental fitness. You know, you're a lover of the gym, Gary. How do we get stronger physically? We go to the gym and we do reps. You cannot visualize more muscle. You still have to go and do the reps. You can't even do it in your comfort zone. You have to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. Between the first and the 10th rep, it's the 11th rep, etc., etc. Same goes for our spirit. If you want to grow your heart muscle and your spiritual fitness, you've got to be willing to challenge yourself and do certain things, practice certain principles, and make certain things non-negotiable. The same thing goes for mental fitness. So to answer your question and to break it down, what has really helped me in my life's journey and through every challenge that I've been through, including 2 years ago, next month will be 2 years, when I was hit head on going downhill on my bike by a drunk, uninsured, 4 times over the limit, disqualified from driving, hit and run driver, driving a stolen vehicle, broken both of my legs, left in intensive care for 2 weeks, 7 weeks in hospital. It was mental fitness tools. And when I eventually woke up, because I had post-traumatic amnesia, I didn't actually remember anything. But on day 10, 11 of being in intensive care, I started thinking, okay, what does all of this mean? What am I going to do? And I'll tell you what I looked up. I want to say I looked up to the sky, but I looked up to the ceiling in ICU. And I just said, thank you, God, that I've been studying all this stuff for so long, because I know exactly what to do now. And here's the 4 things that I did. And it's the 4 things that 1 year later, as setting a stretch goal for myself, having my legs broken, I also used these when I climbed the 4th highest mountain in the world last year, Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, the highest point in Africa where I'm from, right? My continent. And it's these 4 things. Number 1, I'll keep it short because I want to be respectful of your time. But if you want me to go deeper on it, please just invite me to do so. Number 1 is hold yourself responsible for where you are. The minute we play the blame game, that's the minute we give our own personal power away, and we stop we don't give ourselves permission to change. So it's hold yourself responsible for where you are. I did that in hospital. I did that at 32 when I was going through a phase in my business. I did that at 23 years old when I hit rock bottom. Number 2, if you're going through life alone, you're doing it wrong. If you're going through business alone, you're doing it wrong. So number 2 is get around the right people. And it's ready to emphasize the right people. Getting around people is not enough, because if you get around the wrong people, you'll easily go in the wrong direction. It's easy to think like a champion when you're surrounded by champions. It's also easy to think when you're a loser. So it's easy to think you're a loser when you're around losers. So that's number 2. You know, really, I know everyone says it, 5 people you spend the most time with. Proximity is power, but success leaves clues. There's a reason why for 30, 40 years, you know, everyone speaks about it, from, you know, back to Dale Carnegie and Napoleon Hill, you know, all the way through to Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, and I'm sure you too believe that. So it's make sure that you get around the right people in every challenge that you're going through. I changed my environment when I was 23, and I changed the people in my environment so I could grow into those people. And when I went through my accident, I said, right, who do I need to get around me right now? And it wasn't just friends. You know, in full transparency, it was therapists, counselors, CBT practitioners. I knew that I needed to get around the right people. Number 3, there is no meaning without life and no life without meaning. No 2 people can have exactly the same meaning for life or every experience in life. Therefore, what does that mean? We get to choose. Everything that we go through, everything that we're going through right now, collectively or individually, or business-wise or family-wise, we get to choose. This is happening for me, or is this happening to me? So I'll just keep that very short, but it's know that in every moment of every day, every failure, every accident, every fender bender in your car, you get to choose. Every phone call that didn't go well, every meeting that didn't go as planned, we always get to choose our own meaning. And it's having the responsibility to do so in every moment, but also the consciousness to know and the awareness to know that, hey, I can create fucking my own meaning wherever I go. And number 4 is to focus on what you can control rather than what's out of your control. If we try and focus on things that are out of our control, we're left with uncertainty. And nothing great is ever going to happen when we feel uncertain. How do we take our certainty back? When it comes to goal setting, two things. One, be very clear on your intention and where you're heading. Your goals, your dreams, your desires, your visions, your values, etc. But then number two, once you know the intention, park it aside and focus on your attention. And that's what can I do every day? You know, when I was 23 years old, I just started picking up a book. I started following Tony Robbins. I watched The Secret. And day by day, by day by day, I started to change my life. I usually live my life still today, turning 40 this year, one day at a time and every 12 weeks at a time. You know, 12 weeks is a great time frame, right? Because it's not too close that you can't achieve amazing things, but it's not too far that you procrastinate. That's why everyone around the world, when it comes to fitness, just does 12-week body transformations. There's a reason. Once again, success leaves clues. When I was in hospital, I couldn't do Muay Thai. I couldn't climb mountains. I couldn't do ultra marathons. But what I could do is say, today, I'm going to lift my feet and my legs 1 inch from the hospital bed. A week later, it was, I'm going to sit up, etc. So I want to be respectful of your time. I don't want to keep talking. Maybe go to your next question. But that's what really helps me to build my mental fitness and resilience is responsibility, people, meaning, and focus.
Love that, JP. It's so powerful. And I hope that people are going to rewind that and play that back and write those points down, because they're not the exact points that I mentioned, but it's amazing how when you get into this personal development journey, and I've spent a couple of $100,000 on my personal development journey now and business development, you know, the principles that you adopt, they're the same ones I do in my own life. And I love the marginal gains mentality. You know, the satellite navigation, where's the destination for that 12 weeks? Exactly that. Then break it down into the 4 weeks, you know, the 8 weeks, the 12 weeks, then just make 1% incremental change over the course of a year. That's 3,778% increase. Can I be 1% better today than I was yesterday? That's all you need to focus on. And then it's just do the things that you need to do. That's it.
You're speaking from my hymn sheet, man. I'm all about 1 degree shifts every day.
Exactly. No, that's awesome, JP.
You know what's so cool about that? If someone else adopts this mentality that we have, if you have a really bad day, just own your shit the next morning and just realize I'm just 1 degree behind and just get back on it. And if you have that responsibility and you live your life a day at a time, in business, in family, whatever, in fitness and health, you can never go too too far in the wrong direction. I love it.
Yeah, I love that too as well. I was interviewed on a podcast, I think last week, and they said to me, you know, how do you recover from a really bad day? And I was like, tomorrow's a new one. You get the opportunity every 24 hours to wipe the slate clean and go again. So it's like, that's why I get up at 6 a.m. The first thing I do, yes, is feet on the ground, drink water, but then straight into workout mode, because that gets the mind, that gets the body, that gets the endorphins. And that's like jumping out of bed, sprinting for me. Do you have the same kind of morning routine from that point of view?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And you know, you're absolutely right. You know, people want the secret sauce. You know, they want the magic pill. It's just get back on it. Just get back on it. And I have a saying in my life, WYNM. And I actually have it on one of my caps. WYNM stands for what's your next move? And when I'm playful with clients, I always say, you know, no one gives a shit about what you did yesterday. You know, if you were defined by what you did yesterday, you could have a one-hit wonder in the music industry and they'd be famous for the rest of their life. No one gives a shit. Keep showing up. The Beatles were the most famous band, whatever, when they were at the top.
The peak, yeah.
If you study them, in between their hits, they were making 40, 50 tracks that never ever got released. Why? Because you're only as good as your next move. So if you had a bad day, get over it and get on with it. When it comes to morning rituals, yeah, I have morning rituals. Water first, coffee second, meditation, movement, journaling.
And that's the same every single day?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I've got to be flexible in my approach because I travel a lot. But mostly those are my I guess what Tony Robbins would call my 5 to thrive.
Yeah. And you mentioned the meditation there, right? And being completely honest, some people say to me I should meditate, and it's one of those things that I've got such an active mind, constantly on the go, always thinking, wake up thinking, go to bed kind of thinking. Luckily, I sleep really well. But for anyone listening to this who struggles with meditation, like I do, how do you do that? How do you train your mind to just be silent, to be present, to not think? What is meditation to you, and how do we put it into action?
Such an awesome question, man. And thank you for allowing me to go a little bit spiritual, right? Because I love talking
mate, it's what it's all about.
Spiritual fitness. So there's a Buddhist saying, or some kind of, quote. And it goes like this. Maybe you know it. Everyone should meditate for 20 minutes a day. Unless you don't have time, then you should meditate for an hour. And what that means is, or at least my understanding of it is, if you believe you don't have 20 minutes, it's because you're rushed and you're too in your head. So if you have that belief, you need to slow down more than the person that thinks they can do 20 minutes. So for me, what meditation means, now I've studied since my accident, because there's a lot that I couldn't do, and staying true to my own principles, I said, right, what can I do? I couldn't go outside. I couldn't speak. I couldn't coach. I couldn't travel. I couldn't do a lot, be an athlete. So I said, okay, what can I do? I can go inside. So in the last 2 years, I've lived in a Shaolin temple, Buddhist monastery, hung out with and lived with a 35th generation Shaolin monk. I've lived for 16 days in silence, got into Qigong, all this stuff. And what I've learned in studying Buddhism over the last 2 years, which is short of 2 years, is that all of our suffering comes from being out of the present moment. All suffering. Either wandering in the past or wandering in the future. Either being in fight or in flight or freeze. And not just surrendering to what is. And as a result of that, I actually have this saying in my life. It is what it is. 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 When you say that, you allow yourself to just be present, including in a meditation. You see, most people that struggle with meditation, they start judging their observation. And this is something a Shaolin monk taught me. He said, actually, our observations of our thoughts don't cause suffering. You can observe your thoughts all day long. It's only when you got the thought here, you got the observation here. It's only when we go to the third level and we judge our observation, that's where suffering exists. You can observe your thoughts all day long. So in meditation, you can sit there and just observe the fact that you are crazy busy in your head. But if you start judging it and saying, I can't meditate, or this is really difficult, based on what? Based on an expectation of how you think it should be. That's looking into your past. You've created a rule around meditation. If you just say it is what it is, hey, my mind's busy, it is what it is, and you sit there anyway, it allows you to get into what's called equanimity, where everything is what it is, and you don't try to make it something that it's not. And you don't try to get into the future, rush the meditation. Watch anyone that watches their watch once in a meditation or wonders how much time is left. They're suffering at some level because they're not able to sit with themselves. And there's a monk that I've spoke with on one of Shah Wasman's events, Dan Apani, and he says meditation is simply a meeting with your energy. And energy is everything. That's Einstein's words, right? So I think for me, meditation, in short, isn't about not thinking. It's not a not thinking exercise. It's a reflection exercise to reflect on the truth of what is really going on. Reflection guides us to the truth, and the truth sets us free. In this case, free from our own suffering. How much am I in my head? How much am I in the past? How much am I in the future? So to me, every single year, I find myself teaching more on meditation.
Love that.
I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, without a doubt. What it leaves me asking the question of, and maybe others are, is what's the benefit going forward of meditation?
So actually, I'm glad that you asked that follow-up question, because the benefit is just feeling really present and happy, no stress, no anxiety, no negative vibrations, no lowered frequencies. That's the benefit, to just be in equanimity, like a plane, right? This is, if you look at a plane and it's doing this, right? Imagine like this is the past, this is the future, right? Us being in our head is like a plane going through turbulence, but being in equanimity and stillness is like being on a plane. You know, that flight where you wonder, are we even in
Yeah.
the air? It's that
Yeah.
still. And what it allows you to do when you're on that flight, when it's so still, is you just let go of all worry and you're just totally present. You're not wondering about where you are, how far you've got to go, what's going to go wrong. And that's the benefit of meditation. Now, saying that, however, which is why I'm glad that you've asked this follow-up question, I have a client that just is really happy all the time. And I said, well, if you're really happy all the time, why? Because they said, oh, I'm trying to get to meditate. I can't do it. I find it very difficult because I just want to get on with my life. And they just said, you know, I never feel stress. I haven't felt they have ever one of the top health supplement companies in the UK. And that's a big business. She said, I never feel stressed and never feel anxious. So I said, you don't need to meditate then. Stop telling yourself you need to meditate. Just leave it alone. You're probably meditating all day.
Yeah. He's probably feeling that.
I think, you know, to go back to what you said, like you struggle with it. Are you struggling with it because of one, you struggle to be present, or do you just not need meditation in your life? You know, only you can know that, no one else.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that, you know, it's kind of the clubhouse vibe as well, isn't it? You hear these things and you hear these habits and these routines and things that people do. And it's one I haven't tried for ages, but you hear that there's benefits to it. And I'm a massive fan. I'm a learner. I believe in you should always try everything once, you know, and you've got to give it a good shot. And I've never given it a 30-day period to form a habit or anything else like that. And it's one of those that it's definitely on the list to do. I've just got to put it higher up the priority to give it a go. So it's valuable insights for me and for others.
Because you're a super high performance person, what I would recommend is this, right? When we were able to in the UK, go to a weekend silent meditation retreat. Never mind 10 days, 1 week. Just go for like 3 days and sit in meditation. You're going to know whether it's for you or not, whether there's work to do, internal work or not. But definitely you're going to get benefit from it either way because you're going to learn about yourself. And honestly, it's a beautiful experience just to say, you know what, for the next 3 days, get permission from your wife, your kids, your family, your business, and just say for the next 3 days, I'm giving my phone in and I'm not allowed to touch my phone. And all you do for 10 hours a day is you just, and then you'll see, as David Goggins once said this to me, right? I was very grateful that Nick James gave me the opportunity to meet him after my accident. He said, JP, you're like me. Fitness is your medicine. He said, but what you don't see between all the challenges that I do is I spend a lot of time in stillness doing absolutely nothing. He said these words, stop taking the medicine and just be with yourself. And this is direct quote from him. And then I'll fucking show you who you are.
Yeah, it's where they you know, you're left in silence sometimes on some of those challenge programs that they do, don't they? It's like being but it's that whole thing when you go to prison, what's the worst thing that they do to you? They put you in solitary confinement in a room on your own in a padded cell, because the worst place they can leave you is not communicating with other people. So it's like a sign, isn't it? That whole inner demon stuff probably plays quite big in that sense as well.
Absolutely. It's actually, I've never thought about it like that. And what they're doing is they're playing or leveraging the fact that most people have so much internal suffering they can't be on their own. But who manages solitude? Who goes through solitude in prison? The mastered mind. You come out, or you go in unmastered and you come out mastered. Good insight. I like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, JP, you've shed so much value already without a shadow of a doubt. And I love these. I love the spiritual side as well. You know, I've definitely got more spiritual as I've got older, and I'm getting a clearer indication of that. But for those that don't necessarily, you know, the woo-woo, the law of attraction, the visualization, the bringing things into your reality, the energy vibes that we're all on within the world and everything working, you know, in equilibrium. What does spirituality really mean to you?
At the base of our human existence, in my opinion, before any other need needs fulfilling or being met, is a need for connection. And you just touched on it. the worst thing you can do to someone in prison is isolate them. And, me coming from the African continent, all human beings are tribes people, right? Whether in the Arctic regions, in the deserts, in the Amazon. But in Africa, the worst thing you can do to a person in a tribe is isolate them. And for me, that's what spirituality means, connection. You can find your own spirituality, otherwise known as faith or gratitude, or what's the highest expression of all of these things? Love. When you're in love, for me, you're in your spirit, right? When you're in spirituality, you're in spirit, you're living inspired. And what allows us to live in spirit is connection. Connection. And that is why, nothing against religion, but that is why people that lack connection and end up becoming addicts, for example, just one example, what happens? They find Jesus. And what they rarely have found is connection. Whether it's Islam, Buddhism, Hare Krishna, someone had a lack of connection or healthy connection because they've had connection to the wrap of Coke in their pocket or the crack pipe, whatever. And then they find healthy connection. And that's why I said it's at the base of our human existence. It's the number one need for all people. And when people find that in religion, what they're finding is connection to their own spirit, to the universe, and to God, whatever that means for them. So that's what spirituality means for me. In short, it means being connected to something greater than you, more powerful than you, that allows you to have faith, love, and gratitude in your life.
Nice.
And for me, that is Buddhism, not as a religion. Actually, Buddhism isn't a religion. It's made a religion because it's easy for people to understand. But Buddhism is a philosophy. It's a way of life. Don't cause suffering to other beings. Don't cause suffering to yourselves. Don't speak bad words, etc. Anyway, that's it.
No, I love that, JP. And thank you for sharing that with us, because it is so key. You've got to work on yourself before you're able to work on others. I realized that in my own journey, having done NLP back in 2016, it was like, I've got to fix my own shit before I can actually fix the mistakes that I made in business and all those kind of angles. And it's, the more you delve into personal development, the more you do more self-reflection, the more you get into who you are, why you exist, the purpose of the rest of your life, you do get more spiritual naturally, I find, because you have to, because you start assessing to a degree, the why are we here? What's the reason for me being, and what do I want to achieve with my life? When I, look back on my deathbed and say, this is the things that I've done and how I've helped and everything else. Spirituality, I think, is a huge, huge part of that. And obviously there's different degrees, but it's so insightful for those that, maybe have not experienced it or feel in pain or struggle at the moment.
Hey man, I know I keep referring to Clubhouse just because I've seen you there so many times over the last few months, but Clubhouse is like a spiritual environment for people because it allows love, connection, laughter, faith, community, collaboration. Once again, we are tribes people. And if we can find good connection in a tribe, whether on Clubhouse or in the church, we will go in that direction, because it's not a want. It's not a desire. It's a need. We need it to thrive. You don't need it to survive. You can go through life without spiritual connection, but you're going to survive at most. What allows us to thrive is being connected to our spirit.
Yeah. Love that, JP. So let's switch gears for the audience that was there. And you mentioned earlier about the fact of life happening for you rather than to you. Now, when 2 years ago, almost to the month, you had your fatal accident riding your bike, and the car again, not just randomly riding your bike. You were actually on a mission riding around the country, weren't you, realistically? And you got hit.
It wasn't fatal. Obviously, I'm still here, right? I think I'm still here.
In spirit, at the very least. But you had that accident and life happening for you, and actually going through that whole period of time, your proactive nature, everything that you've learned has obviously enabled you to come out the other side of that looking exactly like you did 2 years ago prior to it actually happening, with the same mindset, the same resilience, the same proactive go-getter kind of nature. You know, when you're at that bottom of the barrel, so to speak, when you've been through something like that, how do you know? Because there's many people who in their family and in their lives, you know, there's illness, there's mental illness, there's sickness, there's cancer, there's people who have died from COVID. There's been massive upset over the course of the last 12 months. You know, you're fortunate to have come out the other side. What advice do you have for people who have been in that situation or got family members who have been in that situation?
Really, really good question, man. I've always had this ability to be aware of things that maybe others don't see. And I realized something a few years ago, and it's this, that what happens to us, but it doesn't happen for us. Why do you and I pick up books, autobiographies, books about success stories? Why do we listen to interviews or interview people ourselves? Because stories inspire, and every single person on this planet wants to be inspired. 7.8 billion people in the world. Who doesn't want to, who says, no, thank you, don't want some inspiration in my life? And that's why, you know, movies like The Pursuit of Happiness and in a weird way, you know, if it suits people, The Wolf of Wall Street, is that what the movie's called? The Wolf of Wall Street?
Yep.
These people go back and they watch these stories over and over again because those stories happen to those people, but they happen for us. And I just knew before my accident that everything that ever happened to me, including coming home from a cycling race at 13, just after my father and my birthday, because we share the same birthday, 27th of July, coming home and having the police at my door, telling my mother that the night before my father had driven to the beach, which, weird coincidence, is right in front of the hotel I'm staying in. Weird coincidence. He had driven to the beach and taken his own life. I know without any doubt, in hindsight, that had to happen, because it was the whole reason why I recognized decision by decision I was going in the wrong direction, and I was able to find evidence of what that looked like by looking at from 23 years old to 13 and seeing the similarities, the patterns, the themes of how I was showing up in life, wanting significance, popularity, fame, even just acceptance, and realizing that I couldn't keep doing that same thing over and over again. That had to happen. So already knowing that whatever happens to us, you know, it's not like an idea. It was a knowing inside me that everything I've ever been through had to happen. So when I woke up, I just applied that same belief to my reality. JP, this had to happen. And of course, you can't just bullshit your way through challenges. You actually have to have evidence supporting those beliefs. So I lay there in intensive care, just being transitioned to a ward after 2 weeks. And I started thinking, how did this happen for me? Well, here's the thing, Gary. I started my coaching career at 25, but from when I was 10 years old, still, this is weird because I'm in the same town that this happened, in Cape Town. I was 10 years old. I was about to go to foster care because my mom couldn't afford to keep us, right? That's it.
Yeah.
I was going to say couldn't afford to afford us. She couldn't afford to keep us. And she sat us down and said, look, you guys are going to have to go live with someone else for a while. Now, it didn't happen because, well, God is good, as they would say in America. And something happened that my mom met a man a few months after that. But I remember at 10 years old, seeing a homeless man, an old man in his 80s, African man, arthritis in his hands, and I just had this white bread sandwich with the super cheap strawberry jam. You know, like if you open the sandwich, it's so bright, the strawberry jam, you can't even look at it, like it's proper luminous. And I just gave it to him. So all of my life, all I've ever wanted to do is end other people's suffering, whatever that means. Whether it's they feel fat and lazy, or whether they're actually, thinking of taking their life, or whether they just feel hopeless because they have nothing. This, suffering can show up in so many different ways. But now I'm 37 years old, and I'm asking, how did this happen for me? How did this happen for me? And I thought, all I've ever wanted to do is help people, but I've never in my life helped anyone that's been through physical trauma. Because I believe at my core that I can only teach people what I've been through. And I refuse to coach on anything that I have not experienced and learned from myself. And honestly, bro, in that moment, I'm even getting emotional now. I just knew that there's so many people that go through physical trauma and they define the rest of their life by that experience. Mm-hmm. And it made me sad for so many years, seeing people, oh, I am this way, I am depressed, I am anxious, I'm on pills because of an accident that I had 20 years ago, or someone did this thing to me. And I just realized, man, this had to happen so that I could help more people, because now I can appreciate things like PTSD and, being in a car crash, etc. And whether someone believes me or not, it's up to them to decide. But in that moment, I just felt overwhelmed with gratitude for what had happened to me, because I just thought, man, now I can help a lot more people heal themselves.
Wow. Amazing. And I love how that came out. That story I was so engrossed with. And at the end where you just had that realization, I can completely get it. My journey from coaching only started 2 years ago, and it comes from nowhere near to the degree that you are and the journey that you've been on since you were like 23 years old. But from building a business the wrong way for 10 years, then feeling trapped, emotionally drained, stuck, not knowing how to get out of it, and then moving to this house and my bank turning around to me and saying, no, Gary, you can't buy that house. Wanting to get back into the mortgage industry to bide my time, and then phoning 180 lenders to find how we could move in. And we moved in the October, and I said, right, there goes the 7-figure business. There goes starting all over again, January 2016, self-employed mortgages as a niche. But also it was about, I don't want another business owner to feel the pain that I felt of the bank saying no to me. I want to make sure that they can buy their dream home, that they can achieve more. And then it was, funnily enough, at the beginning of the pandemic last year, I looked at my first ever coaching session that I had, which with you'll know him, Andrew Priestley. And I had that session with Andrew, and it was literally 2 minutes of that 1.5 hour session. And I called my wife into our playroom that it was then. I'm in a 20-foot by 12-foot garden room now that I had built in August 2020. But I was in the playroom, office forward, kids stuff behind me. And I found this video of that coaching session in 2017. And Andrew said to me, if you could do anything, what would you do? And I said, well, at the moment, I'm helping self-employed people to buy property to avoid the pain that I felt when my bank said no to me. But I would love to stop someone building a business for 10 years that gives them the life, gives them the cars, the house, the dreams, the holidays, but gets them to a point where they hate their life because they're trapped in a business that they actually hate. And his question next was, what would you do? I was like, I'd coach people. I'd teach them what I've learned to not make the same mistakes. And he said, well, who could you start with? Typical coaching method. And I said, well, mortgage advisors, financial services professionals. And 2 years ago, March 2019, that seed was planted by Andrew, and it began on March of 2019. And that's my 2-year coaching journey. Nowhere near to the degree of yours, but from pain came helping people to solve others in a mortgage sense, and then in a coaching sense. And it's hit me and resonated so much with me just from a different viewpoint.
First of all, I love Andrew Priestley. He's one of the closest people to me in my life. I actually was just WhatsApping him today, and he's a speaker at a summit that I'm running next week. And second to that, something that will just resonate with you and hopefully your audience too. Once we heal ourselves, we can then heal the world. But until you heal yourself, you cannot heal the world, at least not in a way that it's the full impact, your full purpose. Like, you've got to heal yourself first. And I love that you had to go through that pain to grow through that pain, so that you could then take those lessons and share it with people. And bro, in a different way, but similar. And there's no comparison here. I say there's no comparison because you kept saying no way the same, no way the same, but we're different journeys. And I find you very inspiring, dude. And for me, it was exactly the same. I had to serve myself first before I could serve others. And, the same things show up in different ways throughout our life, the same questions. And now I'm turning 40 this year.
Me
and
too.
I've done a lot of introspection. You too.
2 weeks before you, on the 12th of July.
Bro, that is awesome. Right now, I'm doing a lot of introspection and reflection. And just the other day, I thought of it in a different way. That rather than saying that once we heal ourselves, we can heal the world, just this download came to me that, JP, maybe the greatest thing you can do for the world is to just heal yourself.
Mm.
And that's why I'm two things. Maybe you've heard me say this before. I'm two things in life, identities, I guess. I'm a student and a teacher, but I'm always a student first.
Yeah. Forever learning, forever ever learning. The learning never stops, and that's the game changer, isn't it, at the end of the day? And JP, you inspire me, which is why I wanted you on this podcast at the end of the day, because as I said to you before this started, having watched your journey, and we'll finish with a business financial kind of element for people as well to hit all 3 points. But, seeing your journey and seeing and hearing the path that you've been on, I always get so inspired by that, because it always makes you realize you can play a bigger game. You can do and achieve more should you choose to do so. You achieve more mentally, physically, and financially by being proactive, by going out there and getting it. And that's how you've lived your life. And you continue just to grow, by the looks of it, in stages. As new things happen to you, you can see it, as you've said it today. It was helping people to get fitter. It was then the spirituality side. Now it's actually going into the people who have suffered something life-changing for them. I can't wait to see where your future goes from that point of view.
Yeah,
but to shift,
sorry,
mate, it's nice, massively inspiring. So thank you for obviously sharing with us so far. And a few things that I want to pick out on in the business and financial sense, which people will resonate with, I think, is the fact of you were a PT initially. And this is where I found you, is when you were a PT, and you transformed and changed into realizing that you weren't worth £40 an hour, but you wanted to transition into, being a high performance coach and working with seriously high-end CEOs. How did that mindset shift? How did you move into that business and financial mindset to actually take control of your own finances from that point of view and see the value in you? Got you.
So first of all, I'm still a student in this area, so I don't do, wealth coaching or anything like that. I just want to be very clear. Every year I seem to make a bit more money, but somehow I just end up spending more money every year. It's crazy. It's almost embarrassing how much I get paid for coaching, but that's because I sell a result, and I get to work with some really amazing people. But to go back to what I shared before, I believe life works like, it doesn't work like, oh, you get life wrong and then you get life right. I also don't think life works like that, or even like that. I think life works like this. Like, you live at a certain level of consciousness and awareness, and then you up-level your life, and then you up-level your life, up-level your life, up-level your life. And to go back to your question about this transition or these transitions in my career, what I had to do at every level was I needed to be willing to die of myself in some area. You see, everything that got us to the level that we're at, we can't take that all to the next level. And just to explain that a little bit, because maybe some people don't get it as much as, it looks like you get that. But if we take everything, every belief, every standard, every habit, every relationship, personal, professional, intimate, if we took all of who we are at this current level and expected us to be able to carry it all to the next level, it doesn't make any fucking sense, because then you'd already be there. If you could take everything with you, you'd already be there, or the next level or the next level. So what we need to do is we need to be willing to let certain things go. And that's been an ongoing journey for me in coaching, mentoring, therapy, counseling, Tony Robbins events. Is I'm always looking for the next limit to work on, because I know there's always another level. And at that level, there's always going to be another limit. And although I don't believe human beings can be limitless, I absolutely know without any doubt that we can limit less. And that is my obsession, to help people limit less. People that know they can play a better game inside, and help them to play it. That's my answer.
Love that. And what do you see as some of the commonalities with some of the big CEOs that you work with that hold them back, that stop them getting themselves to the next level?
So the people that I work with in terms of like private coaching is they've got success, but they lack fulfillment. And success is what you see on the outside. Fulfillment is what you feel on the inside. And usually it's a case of what I call a lack of high performance balance. So that's what I do. I'm not a life coach. I don't fix people's problems. I'm a high performance coach. I look at the way people are performing and I help them make tweaks so they can perform at a better level. And although I don't believe work-life balance exists, because if you love what you do, you'd never want to break from it. But high performance balance definitely has to exist. What would happen to Andy Murray or Serena Williams or David Beckham, or you can tell I don't follow football, right? He's the only footballer I know. But what would happen to any athlete if they were off balance? Cannot sustain your success. Cannot. You'll burn out, whether physical, emotional, financial, where there is a lack of balance in your life, nutrition, rest and recovery, whatever, your environment, you're not able to sustain that level and grow beyond that point. And that's what I do for people. It's like a plane, Concorde, fighter jet. What happens? It goes fast, but what happens if it loses its balance? Excuse my French, but it's fucked. What happens if Lewis Hamilton, highest paid athlete in the world, 7 times world champion, fastest driver in the world on a Formula One track? What happens if he loses his balance, even by a little bit? He might just crash and burn. So that's what I do for these high performers. Is I have honest, conscious, inspired conversations with them to look at where can they have more high performance balance. And then, of course, I make sure that they act on that awareness.
Powerful. So powerful. And it comes back to, the whole principle. The mind is the thing that you must sort out first. And that's where you can, you hear of all the success stories of the people who have got everything they wanted. To a degree, I had it in 2015 from that point of view, but it lacked the mind element. It lacked the purpose. It lacked the high performance side of things, without a shadow of a doubt.
It's energy. I know you said it's mindset, but it's energy.
Yeah.
What a good high performance coach does for their client is he helps them protect and optimize their energy by looking at their beliefs and their identity, by looking at the clarity around their goals, their vision, their values, by looking at their nutrition, hydration, breath work, mindfulness, rest and recovery, fitness, mobility, movement, environment, relationships. But it's all about protect and optimize.
Superb. Thank you, JP. It's been absolutely powerful. And I want to finish with one thing that I know has been something. I remember you posting it on social media, actually, because you do work with these high-powered CEOs. And I think it's so prevalent to the world that we now live in. You are a man who's covered in tattoos. And I remember reading something ages ago, about not wanting to show them because of the perception being reality for the type of clients that you want to work with and you want to help. And I went through this in my own journey of first using social media in 2015 or 2016. I was always corporate. I was Woolwich and Alexander Hall and Mr. Suited and Booted, needed to have the shirt and tie, typical looking mortgage broker. And the more I let go of that, the more congruent it felt, the better my personal brand began to grow online. And it seems to be the more results I'm weirdly kind of getting because, for want of a better word, and I don't particularly like it, it's more authentic. So what was the big shift for you going through that journey as well, and being afraid to not be afraid of 100% who you are out there in this social media world that is ruling our lives and our businesses at the present time?
You can tell by my smile, I'm happy about this question, right? So absolutely. I know you said authentic, but you're right. That word gets thrown around so much. I'm going to change it, but it goes back to authenticity. When we are 100% authentic in our nature, in our truth, in our genius, what happens is our certainty goes through the fucking roof. When you know you are being 100% yourself, you're more certain. Because when you're being 100% yourself, you're not trying to be someone else, which means that you can't get it wrong. You're just being you. You're not judging what you're doing. You're not asking, am I doing the right thing, saying the right thing? Am I wearing the right thing? You're just you. So that for me is freedom. My definition of freedom, my highest value is never caring about what anyone thinks. That for me is what freedom is, just to fully express who I am. And every year, like I said, level by level by level by level, every year I get a little bit better, but I'm still on my way. And the transition for me was this. I have a lot of great people in my life, friends, coaches, mentors, and a coach of mine that's my speaking coach. Or all about getting my voice and my truth out to the world is someone that most people know, Lisa Nichols from the movie The Secret. And the first time I ever met Lisa was in Dublin. I'm going to do a very quick snapshot of this. Dublin at an event called Pendulum Summit, and something told me there was a 500 euro ticket and a 3,000 euro ticket. Something in my own intuition said, you've got to go for the full ticket because you can meet the speakers. Long story made very short. After I bought the 3,000 euro ticket, they called me up and said, oh, by the way, we didn't tell you, you get dinner the night before. Can you get your night before? I said, yeah, absolutely. Guess who was sitting at my table? Lisa Nichols. And I asked Lisa, I came with a suit and, check my collar is right. And, oh, look at all these Irish business people and I'm get some clients. And I found myself doing this, right? I already had a sleeve and I kept doing this with my thing. I didn't have hand tattoos yet, right? That's Lisa Nichols' fault. And I kept covering. And I said to Lisa, can I ask you a question? I have this fear about corporates. Over the last few years, I've been working more and more on corporates. And every time I go into a boardroom, I cover my tattoos because I'm scared that they're not going to want to work with me. What's your thoughts on that in corporates and having tattoos and stuff? Similar to your question. And she gave me a surface level answer. But the next day in the event, I'm sitting front row because the ticket that I got. And the next time I'm at the event, Lisa's on stage on the big screen. I'm so engrossed into what she's saying. I didn't realize she's gone off the stage. She's gone around the audience. And next thing I know, when I realize it's too late, she taps me on the shoulder. And she's talking about living your truth, standing up for what you believe in everything, just being you, being authentic, what she calls being unapologetically non-negotiable. So she taps me on the shoulder. She says, get up. I get up. And I turn, she goes, turn around. I turn around and my back's against the stage in this auditorium. And I'm feeling the pressure of the stage because I'm like, whoa, 3,000 people, look on it in like a pavilion. And she says, take your top off. Now, remember, she's just spoken about being non-negotiable, unapologetic. She says, take your top off. I go, looks at me and she goes, you think I'm joking? She goes, take your top off. I'm like, no, Irish people, right? Sometimes they're not that funny, right? They're quite serious, right? And I just went, oh my God. And I took my top off. And there was all kinds of different jokes and whistles and all that stuff because I'm just my top off. And she looks at the audience and she says, JP is worried about that as he moves more into the corporate space, that people won't want to work with him. And before she can even finish, this lady shouts out, I'll work with him. Everyone just has a good laugh. And she continues and she says, tell me, JP's great energy. Look at his smile. Look, he's in really great shape. Who would work with him as a coach? It's such a beautiful and pivotal moment in my life. It brings up lots of emotions. Half of the place said, I'll work with him. 1,500 people all raising their hands. She looks at me and she says, your people will always be your people. And if they no longer want to work with you, it's because they're not your people. Bro, that was about 5 years ago. Never forgotten that moment. And any time someone lets themselves go from my train, or removes themselves from my community or my business and my coaching, I just tell myself same thing. Thank you, great journey, great season, but clearly you're not my people anymore. And I just keep being me for the people that need me. So that's my answer. It was a bit long, but I'd do it injustice if I didn't do it to that depth.
And I think that is a fantastic place to end as well, because it is where we are living now in the world of social media, in the world of, vanity metrics, laptop lifestyle, Lamborghinis and Porsches on Instagram, and the whole fakery that's going round. But what you shared there is so insanely powerful in terms of just be you. People like you will like you. And that's all that matters. You don't need to, please everybody. I talk about niching in marketing all the time, and everyone goes, "Oh yeah, but then I'll risk my business and I won't make as much money and everything else." But it's rubbish, because you're better off being a big fish in a small pond and being higher paid because you are the leader of that particular area, than trying to be a tiny little fish in a big pond, appealing to nobody and not standing out at all, being a needle in a haystack.
Yeah. And also, just to go back to what I was saying, most of the times that limitation that I have or had, it's not even real.
Yeah.
90% of the limitations that we have aren't real. I've just coached 24 leaders in a company. I've had 6-figure coaching contracts over the last 2 years. I'm covered in tattoos. It was just all bullshit made up in my head. Level by level by level, I'm removing those limits. Bro, it's been amazing. It's been inspiring. So glad that we got to do this.
100%. And I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart to come to share this journey and share everything that you've obviously been through in life, in business, emotionally, physically, mentally. And for those of you who haven't seen, just give JP, Jean-Pierre De Villiers, Google it, put in bike accident, and you will see all of the articles online in terms of what he actually went through. Today, we didn't do justice in relation to the tragedy that hit JP 2 years ago, and he stands here today, as far as I can see, stronger, healthier, fitter, maybe better looking, possibly, maybe. But JP, it's been awesome, man. I love seeing you. I love connecting with you on Clubhouse and watching your journey, and thank you for inspiring everybody on the Proactive podcast today.
Thank you, bro. Thanks for listening. And I look forward to connecting with you guys in the future.